Woof woof.
We're looking at Okidogi, the brute, the barbarian, the fighter of the Loyal Three. And unlike Pheasantipity, Okidogi is not the first of its typing. It's actually a poison fighting type, which means we've seen this type before all the way since Generation 4 with Toxicroak. We have a 4 times resistance to bug. We resist poison fighting dark grass and rock while being weak to flying and ground and having 1 glaring 4 times weakness to psychic. But that's okay. This is your friendly reminder. Terrestrialization is a thing. As far as our stat breakdown goes, we have 88 HP, 128 attack, which is just beautiful, 115 defense, 58 special attack, which is okay because this thing gets next to no special attacks to begin with. It gets 86 base special defense and 80 speed. As far as the stat breakdown on this thing goes, I just love it. It just appeals to my lizard brain that just wants to wail on things. As far as the fact that it is a member of the Loyal 3, it does get Toxic Chain as its main ability, which means its moves have a 30% chance of inflicting toxic poison to your opponent. It also has the Guard Dog ability as its hidden ability, which means it's immune to Intimidate, and if you make the mistake of trying to intimidate it, especially since some people like to run double Intimidate on their lead, you'll actually get a +1 in your attack if they try to intimidate you, and they can't force you out with moves or abilities or items that switch out the target. It's immune to that. So if you start setting up with Okidogi, like say Bulk Up or Howl, you don't have to worry about Roar phasing you out. You're welcome. So what do you think about doing for items and movesets with this thing? Well, the first I'm thinking Assault Vest. We're going to lock ourselves into damaging moves only, but that's okay. Because we have a solid 86, we don't need much investment into it, with the Assault Vest giving us a 50% boost, if any investment at all. So what I was thinking here is we're going to go max investment into our HP to bring us up to 195. We're going to go 196 on an Adamant Nature to bring us up to 190 points. And then we're going to take the remaining 60 points and put it into our defense. Now, you could make a case for running some speed investment on this thing with a Jolly Nature, but I like the idea of being that slow brute. It might be just because that's how I play my Fire Emblem games, but hey, I just kind of like that idea. You could run Trick Room with Okidogi as well, or you could run Tailwind and put a little bit of speed investment into this thing. Definitely up to you on what you want to do. So what I was thinking for this move set here is we have Drain Punch to recover back some HP. It gets Stab from our fighting type. If we want to go Terra Fighting to double our offensive power on that, I think that's a really good choice because then we're getting back even more HP. We have Knockoff, which will do extra damage to the target when we remove an item by 50%. On top of that, if we wanted to go Terra Dark, definitely a solid option there as well. If we go Terra Dark, while we do become weak to fairies and fighting types, we do become immune to Prankster status moves, which could be solid. It also gives Knockoff Stab, which means we're going to be doing a lot of damage each time we remove an item from our opponent. We could go Poison Jab or Gunk Shot to take advantage of Poison type Stab. Poison Jab has base 80 power and it has a 30% chance to normally poison the target. And on top of that, with Toxic Chain, we're getting a 30% chance to badly poison the target. So either way, someone's getting poisoned as soon as we jab them. We could go Gunk Shot if we wanted to instead. It's base 120 power at the cost of 80 accuracy. It still also has a 30% chance to poison the target. So if we land it, it's well worth the risk, but I think Poison Jab is just a little bit safer in this case, so that's my main idea. We could go with that. But we could also run Poison Fang at the cost of some power. We do gain a 50% chance to toxic poison the opponent, so that would put them on a timer, and that would synergize nicely with the Toxic Chain, because if we don't get it with the Poison Fang effect naturally, we could potentially get it with the Toxic Chain. I really like those odds. So there is that. And then you have Poison Tail, which don't run Poison Tail. It's as strong as Poison Fang, but it only has a boosted crit ratio and significantly less chance to poison the target. Don't run that. There's no case you could make for that. That I would be like, yeah, run Poison Tail over the other poison moves. I'd go Poison Jab or Gunk Shot, even Fang, over Poison Tail. And then finally, our last move that I was thinking is we run Psychic Fangs. Now, Okidogi does get access to Brick Break, which does naturally get Stab, but Psychic Fangs does a little bit more power by having 85 base power as opposed to Brick Break's 75. And the nice thing here is if you're going up against opposing Okidogi or even Pheasantipity, Monkey Dory, that's some super effective damage you've got on them, especially opposing Okidogi that have not terrestrialized. You have that 4 times psychic damage that you could go for there, and you have the ability to destroy screens, which is nice. So that's what I was thinking for an Assault Vest set. Let's move on to our Choice Band. So in this case, we're actually going to run some speed investment. What we're going to do here is we're going to run a Jolly Nature. We're going to have 132 EVs to bring us up to 128. So when we have Tailwind on the field, we're going to be hitting 256. That is faster than a non-timid Regieleki and slower. That is really nice right there. We're going to go max attack investment on here. We're also going to be locking yourself into one of 4 moves, and then we're going to put the rest into our HP for bulk. Now, what I was thinking is we have knockoff still, we have poison jab still. Like I mentioned about gunk shot, you can definitely do that. But in this case, we're not going to run drain punch. What I was thinking is we can just absolutely destroy things, clobber them with a close combat. It's base 120 power. It does lower your defenses, hence why we didn't invest anything into that and just into our HP. We can go for the close combat. We could technically make a case for the drain punch, and then we're just getting HP back, but we're not as bulky as the other set, so that's why I was thinking. I'm thinking we're just going to go guns blazing with that close combat and just go from there. And then we can also go high horsepower. So this is also something you could run on the Assault Vest set as well. It's single target, ground type damage, which could be nice for dealing with opposing poison types as well. So you could make that case instead of Psychic Fangs. I really recommend keeping knockoff before putting high horsepower onto there. So I'd rather, in order of preference, I would probably get rid of Psychic Fangs first and then knockoff, while keeping our poison and fighting type stab. So that's what I was thinking about high horsepower. Now, you could also make a case for Terra Fire, especially on both this set and the Assault Vest set, because you don't want this dog to get neutered here by getting burned. So you could run Terra Fire, and while you would be susceptible to Urshifu Rapid Strike, at least you don't have to worry about getting burned and losing half of your firepower on your attack stat. So that is definitely a thing to keep in mind. Now, what you could do too, and this is going to get into the Clear Amulet set a little bit, but more for the Assault Vest and the Choice Band set, if you wanted to run Screamtail next to Okidogi or maybe even Arcanine, they both get Howl, which is nice because that will increase Okidogi's attack stat in addition to Screamtail's attack stat or Arcanine's attack stat. So I was thinking you could run Howl, and why I'm kind of leaning towards Screamtail over Arcanine is Screamtail does get both Light Screen and Reflect support. It also gets access to Rock Tomb. I'm pretty sure it also gets Icy Wind. No, it doesn't get Icy Wind. So you definitely got to use the Rock Tomb for this. But Rock Tomb would give you a little bit of speed control, especially if you're running a speed-heavy Screamtail and Booster Energy. You'll get speed lowered into your targets, and then Okidogi can just smash them hard with whatever move you're going for, especially if it's got a Howl boost. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. You got the Howl to increase your attack power. You got your screens to increase your durability. You also have the Drain Punch on the Assault Vest set or the Close Combat on the Choice Band set. So you got plenty of strong hitting fighting type coverage, and you can just go from there. And then finally, we have the Clear Amulet. So what I was thinking here is we go bulk up and Clear Amulet. We're going to invest into our special defense with a careful nature. I got to specify this because I kept wanting to say careful on the Pheasantipity when I was talking about the bulky nasty plant. It took me a couple of takes to eventually get the hang of saying calm. Now I'm in the habit of wanting to say calm instead of careful. So anyways, with a careful nature and 100 EVs into the special defense, we're going to hit 130. We're going to put 60 points into our defense stat. We're going to put 92 into our attack. At this point, we're sitting at 130 special defense, 143 defense, and 160 attack. We're going to go for max investment into our HP to bring us up to 195, and that's going to leave us with 4 EVs left over. We're going to add 1 speed point to Okidogi. What we're going to do is we're going to go bulk up. And this Okidogi is going to heavily require redirection support or screen support. So we're going to go bulk up. We're going to get a +1 into our attack and our defense. So at 160, we're getting an extra 80 points. At 143, we're technically getting 71 because it rounds down from the 0.5 from the decimal. So we're going to be looking at 80 points from a +1 into our attack, 71 into our defense. That's going to take us well over 200 for both of those stats. Drain Punch is going to hurt a lot of things at that point. Knockoff is going to nail a lot of things. Terra Fire might be good here. Terra Poison, Terra Steel, they're definitely solid options. Terra Steel gives you a lot of defenses. It also removes your 4x Psychic weakness as well. Now, you could go Terra Poison too. Terra Poison is definitely an option because one thing that could be a little bit concerning for Okidogi if you Terra away from the poison typing is now you can become poisoned, especially if you're going up against something like an opposing Okidogi or one of the other 2 members of the Loyal 3. Terra Steel would protect you from that too because Steel would be immune to poison type attacks. So there's definitely that. And I'm pretty sure Toxic Chain would be too broken if they gave it the ability to poison types and steel types like corrosion. So I'm pretty sure Toxic Chain would be too broken at that point. But anyways, it's a strong ability. So yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about Okidogi. And just to touch on the abilities on that note too, for the most part, I've been just factoring in Toxic Chain as an added bonus to it. But you really could make a case for Guard Dog too for any of these sets, because outside of the Clear Amulet protecting you from Intimidate, the Choice Band set and the Assault Vest set don't appreciate being intimidated. They also don't have to rely on Toxic Chain. They could run Guard Dog instead. And the nice thing too is, especially if you've been running Howl support next to both of them and you're setting up, you don't want your opponent trying to phase you out in any means. You want Okidogi to only leave the field by getting knocked out at that point, or deliberately switching, if you're all about that stuff. So really, having Guard Dog, especially if you're setting up with Okidogi, that would be really handy to make sure that if they try to intimidate you, you're still getting that +1, and then they just can't phase you out. So it's definitely your preference if you want to run Toxic Chain or Guard Dog. But just keep in mind, you are using the ability patch to gain access to Guard Dog. Where Toxic Chain, the added effect there is, especially on the bulkier variants of this thing, at least you're putting them on a timer while still wearing them down with heavy hitting moves. Okidogi is far from Pheasantipity, where Pheasantipity's attack stats are just so low. Okidogi is going to be punishing things with heavy hitting attacks, and then the poison type is like the poison status from Toxic Chain is going to whittle them down. So there's definitely that too. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of Incinebark here, and let's get the conversation going.